Ladies and gentlemen, in today's episode, we have a very special guest, Crypto Kaleo. He's here to talk about Ethereum, crypto, the stock market, technical analysis, the Ethereum merge, the macroeconomic conditions, everything that you could possibly want to know about. As always, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. The NFT space is insanely risky, so always do your own research. The crypto space too, that is. And as always, if you enjoy the content, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, share it with your friends. And yeah, let's rock and roll. Kaleo, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Glad to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. And to give people context, we met through basically Twitter. We're fans of yours. You popped onto our Twitter show a couple of times, which is awesome. And you're very well known on Twitter as being a technical analyst.
Are you on the right mic?
Me?
Yeah, because you have an immense amount of static, and it doesn't even sound like you're going through the Roadcaster.
Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, that's 1,000 times better. Thanks.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
I was gonna say something, but I didn't want to, talk crap on your audio quality the first time coming on here as a guest.
Sorry. I hope I sound buttery smooth, ladies and gentlemen. Music to everybody's ears.
So much better. Holy cow!
A skinny American. Skinny Italian American guy's voice. All right, here we go. So Kaleo, we'd love to hear it. I mean, I'll just kind of kick it off, and I know Nick's gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. How did you get started with technical analysis? Trading crypto and other assets, and if we could just kind of start there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, man. By the way, if you guys hear something in the background for anybody that's watching, I apologize. I've got yard people outside. They'll be gone soon, I swear. But no, I got started, 2017 is when I first got involved with crypto. And I really avoided, a lot of other investing type stuff before then. I'm an engineer by trade, and I looked at a lot of lots of data, lots of charts. They weren't price charts, but other trends with that. And whenever I got involved with the crypto side of things, it didn't take long being plugged into crypto Twitter to see people posting charts and try to find some type of trend there myself. It just ended up becoming a hobby and becoming more than a hobby. And, here I am 5+ years later, still trying to figure out if I can find some trends and shit. So, man, that's the long story kind of short with it.
So you're a self-taught trader.
That's it. So, a lot of the stuff that I do isn't by the book or anything else, but, what I've realized is that there are a lot of people that can know the book front and back, but if they can't control their emotions and if they don't position themselves well, with the risk, et cetera, they're going to end up wrecking themselves one way or the other. I think a lot of it's just that experience of being able to control your emotions through different market conditions and, preparing yourself for really whatever is going to happen.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, when you first got in, what was your first, where did you start? Did you start trading stocks or did you start with crypto?
Crypto, man. I dabbled with stocks, but I was always the classic, just, buy X amount of whatever every time I got my check and, twice a month, and that was it. So, I would slowly, I obviously had the 401k, but outside of that, I did invest, but it was really passive, and big names too, like Apple, Exxon, some of those type of companies. So it was nothing sexy until, I found out about Bitcoin back in early 2017. And, like I said, kind of dove down the rabbit hole after that.
So, did you start just primarily with Bitcoin? And also, what was your foundations for technical analysis, and how did that play a role? And at what point did you start implementing any strategies whatsoever?
Okay. So it started with, again, I had the exact same strategy with Bitcoin and Ethereum as I did with stocks when I first started. I would just go to Coinbase, whoever else, buy a little bit of Bitcoin, buy a little bit of Ethereum, stack it. And it wasn't until I think April of 2017, because I started, in January. So it wasn't until April of 17 that I had a buddy that, first told me about it to begin with. And he was like, hey, there's this thing called crypto Twitter, and there are actually all these other coins that exist out there. And here they are. And, you've got to create an exchange account on something called Poloniex and this and that. So, I started doing that, bought some shit coins. I think my very first one I ever bought was called Gollum. I don't know if y'all have heard of it. It's like, it was supposed to be the future of decentralized cloud storage, basically. And, Digibyte was one of them. You could go down the list of all the different 2017 shit coins that existed back then. But, it didn't take long before I was like, man, instead of stacking, well, I can just stack, but I can take this shortcut to stack faster if I try to trade and capitalize on some of these movements of the other coins. And, at the time, it didn't take long before I realized that, I was, I was god awful at it back then. And but I was addicted to it. So it didn't stop me. And, it took a few years, to really figure out a good groove for what I was doing with the market. Because, I think whenever I first entered into the space, rather than having a calculated strategy with what I was doing, I really feel like my strategy was almost more of a gamble, like a roll of a dice. You'd see something, kind of have that gut feel and just go for it, right? There wasn't really a clear-cut strategy that went into a lot of it, right? And yeah, so that was kind of the beginning stages of everything.
I mean, you must have had some gain. Well, a couple of questions pertaining to this. So you're working another job at this time. You go in, you start doing trading, and there must have been some outside of, like, my friend told me about it. When you start making money during a boom, that's when you're like, oh, I'm a genius. And everyone goes through at least, I think, the first cycle of that where you do decently and you make money. Like, how much were you investing at this point in time when you first started? Was it like, thousands of dollars and just seeing how it goes? Was this like your savings that you were trading? Like, how were you thinking about this?
Yeah, I remember the days when I thought investing $1,000 was a lot. Like, whenever I first started, I was like, okay, I put $1,000 into this Bitcoin thing. Like, I bought a Bitcoin, what's going to happen? Or I bought
deal, right? Big
yeah,
deal.
like, I bought $1,000 of Ethereum. Now I've got like 20 of these things. Like, what's going to happen? And as the price starts to go up, you start to sit there and you feel like a genius to all your friends. So, like, what I really started with, what my initial obsession with was when I got into the space was purely the tech side of things, right? Like, purely believing tech is game changing and that it's something that once you understand it, that it's not going away, right? And like, that was the fundamental bullish case. And then the trading became kind of a hobby and side obsession past that. But yeah, there were multiple runs within that in 2017 where, had some great trades, felt like a genius, and, it didn't take long for the market to humble me in 2018, whenever everything reversed back then.
Okay, so you go through one cycle of this. I started looking at your tweets maybe 2020. Actually, I don't know, 2020, maybe beginning of 2021. I actually think somewhere around that. And you were primarily, if I recall, doing a lot of fractals, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So, I'll look at fractals, but one of the things that, I'll say with the fractals that I share, right? Like, a lot of people, whenever I share a fractal, they're like, oh man, you're expecting some type of perfect price action to mirror this exactly, right? Like, no, I look for other trends, and if there's a fractal that kind of fits in with the bias of that trend, then I'll look at it and use it as another data point. And sometimes tracing through that price action, and it's a lot cleaner to be able to draw a fractal on the chart and say, hey, here's an example of whatever, how it happened, how it played out, and what it would look like if it played out again, than it is just draw some squiggles with some lines. So like I don't expect perfection out of these fractals every single time I share them, right? But it is one of those things where occasionally, and interestingly enough, and I think this is one of the things that, led to my account gaining some traction at certain points. There have been several major fractal plays that did play out to the T for like weeks on end. And, those were really fun to watch. But then the issue with that is people then become accustomed to, okay, if Kaleo's going to share a fractal, like there is perfection that is coming out of this down to the T of every single step. So it sets you up for a high standard to be able to continue forward with that same level of, whatever past that.
So you said you're on the sidelines for now. I'm sort of wondering, like, in terms of what did the last year of trading look like for you before we jump into like NFT related stuff? I'm really interested in terms of, well, who do you look up to like on the technical analysis side? Like, did you just start slapping some stuff on, TradingView and that's Crypto Kaleo, or was there some foundation that got you to this point? And then, I guess the other component of that is, in addition to like the people that you're looking up to, what did last year look like for you on the trading side of things? Were you, are you heavily trading? Is this your main thing that you're doing at this point in time? Like, how has this materialized, basically?
Yeah, no, of course, man. So let's see. Over the past, I'll start off with who do I look up to? It really started with back in the day, a lot of the old classic 2017 names that I paid attention to. Dude, Kobe was always one of my idols whenever I first started back in the day. And I know that he's not a TA guy, but, I always loved paying attention to everything that Kobe was doing and talking about. And he did used to talk more back in the day about other projects, shit, this and that, right? So he did get a little bit more sentiment back then. As far as traders, dude, I always looked up to Cred. And, heck, funny enough, one guy that I loved to look at his charts back in the day was Inverse Bra, whenever he was Stardust. Whenever I first started, there are a lot of people that don't know the background story. He used to be like this big TA guy. His name was Crypto Stardust. And his account one day out of the blue just got, blacklisted. And prior to that happening, he had shared this chart with Bitcoin that was inverse. And there was somebody on there that didn't get the picture of what was going on there. And they were like, what are you talking about by the fact it's going to pump? Like, you have it going down. And Ledger ended up replying to that, like, it's Inverse Bra. So when Inverse Bra's account, Stardust, got taken down, he ended up creating this Inverse Bra account. And he just went from this, respectable TA guy to like this meme lord that is an integral character into CT. So anyway, and just after, a lot of time, I think that, as a trader, you develop your own style, right? And, you take bits and pieces from a lot of different people, but, one of the important things is there's no perfect playbook for how to be successful trading, because if there was, everybody would do it, right? So I think the important thing is finding whatever you see as an edge and being able to push that. And, like, one of the things that I noticed was that, I did incredibly well in trending markets. And, I was able to spot a lot of the major moves before they happened. And, that was another reason why my account ended up exploding last year, because I found a lot of success in that in the trending market. And, whenever I finally gave in, which was very beginning of January, and realized, okay, the market's not going as high as I think, and I think that we're entering into a bear market, is really where I took my foot off the gas as far as trading, just because I remembered what happened the last bear market. I was content with where I was, as far as any type of gains, anything else. And, I just, capital preservation's key. So, that's really where I've been the past 6 months. I still love to, I guess it's longer than, 9 months. Like, I love to still sit there and, speculate and look at it and look for the trends, because I think that it keeps me sane during the bear market. But at the same time, it takes a lot of weight off my shoulders whenever some of these are major moves happen that go the opposite direction. Like today, for instance, I thought today CPI, we're going to end up breaking higher, and we obviously had that huge wick lower.
I made that trade.
Yeah.
And lost.
On which side of it? Which side of it?
I went long, and then, I was pissed because last night I saw it going down some, and I was like, this level looks pretty nice, which was down at, I guess, 1693 is where I have a line drawn, and it went off that. That was around 10 p.m., and I'm like, do I want to enter this trade right now for tomorrow? I should have. At that moment, it would have been nice because it would have gone up to like 1740.
Yeah.
I ended up entering near the top of where it was, and I was like, yeah, maybe we're aiming for a break up to 1787 was where my line is, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And so I buy in, and then immediately the news comes out. I had a stop loss like built into this because I'm like, this is either gonna, I'm either gonna look like a genius or this is just gonna crash immediately. And it completely crashed, and I got stopped out. I only lost on the first trade, I lost $600. Then on our show, I was discussing buying in more, and it was just going. The price action looked bad. So I lost another 100, and then I'm like, okay, this is it. This is finally the bottom. I'm gonna buy back in. Went and bought back in. It went up and then just promptly completely dumped again. It's now in this range. It's been sitting in this range. I have two lines I've been watching. It's just been stupid trades on my part. And I'm sitting there being like, why did I do this? Like, what was this weekend I had a trade where I made like $1,000 and then
that puts the hook in you. You're like, yeah, and more trades.
Yeah, exactly. That was what happened. I hadn't traded for a bit, made a little bit, and then was like, all right, let's fucking go.
I could just print money. I forgot about that,
Exactly.
Dude, it's tough, man. Okay, and actually I thought about it. So I had made one other big trade this year since January. That was the breakdown from 40K down to like that 28K area. I ended up I rode it from about 40 to 31 when I ended up getting out. So I didn't ride it all the way down to the 28 range, but that one did play out really well. And then that's what it was like, okay, I am done for now because I was short leading into it. Right. But at that point, I expected that, okay, this is going to be the bottom of this range and we're going to sit here for the next year, with 30K as the base, and you'll have plenty of time to be able to stack and accumulate. Didn't take long before we lost that. And, it's one of those things that, looking at it again, it's just, that's why in the bear market / crap market, dude, I'm fine with just being patient. Capital preservation is key, where you're talking about, not positioning yourself in any type of over leveraged situation to where you're, if you're wrong on a trade, you're going to sit there and not have any capital left whenever the next bull run does start, right? It's all about survival, both as far as what you have on your stack, but also, mentally. You don't want to be at a point where you push it too far and, because you were wrong, you are mentally fatigued and then you miss out, by not being able to have the stamina to survive until the next cycle. So, that's my thing right now where, I would love to be like, actually, dude, I felt like an ass just a bit ago because, I shared a thread where I've been openly bullish about thinking we're going to go back to the high 20s, maybe low 30s for the past several weeks. And, I felt like one of the things when you're a larger account, you get a lot of people that, attack you from whatever side. So the more that you get attacked with that, the more your pride kicks in to where you get a little bit more, a little bit more gusto behind your tweets. And I had a lot of gusto recently, man. So it took a lot of pride to be able to sit there and say, okay, I actually think we are, there's a decent chance that we do go, but, quite a bit lower from here now. And, it's tough to say. And I actually hope the people that are in the comments right now, there's a shit ton of comments that are like, okay, just do the opposite of what Kaleo says now, that's a bottom tick. I would love that. I would love nothing more than that. But, again, that's part of the game. You end up dealing with a lot of those type of voices and you have fun with it, man. If it's not fun, then it's not worth doing.
Our comments have been mostly positive on YouTube. So I don't know. No one
No one
I don't-
here is
I
like,
don't-
look at this counter signal, bitch.
Hey, but bro, I would love, like, you know how much power is in your hands if if I did somehow become this ultimate counter signal, like that is just about as powerful as being, the ultimate whatever else signal, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I would not mind if somehow I was wrong, that my thread bottom ticked and I became this ultimate counter signal, because it's an easy trade, right? You just tweet shit and you do the opposite of what you tweet. And, so we'll see.
So I'm wondering, like, in terms of your own performance, are you living off of your trading, or do you have another job? Like, what's the structure here? And for you, is trading literally your primary income source? I guess is maybe what I'm leading to.
Yeah, I did well enough last year, thankfully, that there have been multiple opportunities that have come up where, the irony of the situation back in 2020, whenever the COVID crash hit, I was not in a position where, I was killing it, right? Like, I was down on my luck. I was, between jobs. I was down on my trades entering in through COVID. I didn't have capital set aside. I mean, heck, I was literally going door to door selling windows. As an engineer, as a petroleum engineer, it was a really humbling experience, but I was determined that I was not going to take money from anybody, that I was going to figure out how to work my way out of whatever hole that I was in, regardless of what I had to do. And there were a lot of companies that I went to that I was trying to talk to back then, that within the last 6 months, on the oil and gas side of things, like, I've gotten a lot of calls about, hey, what are you doing right now? Are you available? Can you come back? We need engineers. We need this and that. And, because I did, thankfully take it easy at the end of last year, going into this year, I'm at a point where, I can coast for a while, and I don't see myself going back there. So, combination of that and, trying to turn, this platform into something as well. I think that there's an opportunity there down the road as well. And yeah, man, I love kind of doing what y'all are doing, having a voice in this space and being able to connect with people. So, I see that being a big part of my future as well.
Awesome, man. I was muted. Look, obviously being a content creator is incredible. Nick, I know. So Nick, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know, Nick's the one out of the two of us that has technical trading experience and a whole lot of it. So, I want to
Just
definitely
an extreme level of technical trading experience.
It's a crazy amount. And I just want to, give him the floor, obviously, to dive deep with Kaleo on the technical side, because we don't always have people like that. If you don't, Nick, then I definitely have questions for Kaleo too.
I have a bunch more. I just didn't know if
you dominate the conversation, buddy. I also think live charting is good. No, I don't get jealous, Nick. You can go ahead and go nuts. You can keep Kaleo all to yourself for the next couple minutes.
I wasn't concerned about jealousy, but so a couple of things. One that you just mentioned, Pio, is about actually looking at charts, which would be interesting. So it sounds like you did decently enough. But it's more like money put aside right now, and so you're sort of figuring out the next steps. Would that be like an accurate sort of assessment?
Yeah, there's money set aside right now, and like that'll be, as long as I'm smart with my money, that'll be plenty to last me for years. But at the same time, there are opportunities. Like, one of the funny things that happens whenever you quote unquote make it in some people's eyes, they're like, well, you should never take money for anything you ever do ever again, because if you're successful, why would you ever try to monetize something you do? Right. But like with my spaces and with that platform, I've had the opportunity to partner with FTX. So, that does provide some other passive income. Right. And I think it's important to be able to look at opportunities like that, where I've been extremely selective with who I partner with on opportunities. And I know you guys partner with FTX also, but reputable exchanges that you trust, that you use yourself, and reputable platforms or projects. There are things like that I'll look into, but, I'm not sitting there. It's not something that has to happen, but I do think that it is wise to be able to still focus on, I want to have some form of revenue, some form of income outside of just, taking this trading money that I've accumulated and then sitting there and siphoning it to zero eventually, right? I think there are opportunities there that I'll be able to continue to build. And, obviously there are a lot of other partnerships and stuff that I could take that I'm not taking because it doesn't match up with my ethos. So, that's one of the things that I think just patiently and selectively looking for opportunities there is something that, can be a source of revenue going forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, having sponsorships by reputable platforms that you already use, like you talked about with FTX. In the crypto space, I think that there's just a lot of nefarious behavior. There just is, because the technology kind of lends itself to making it really easy to extract money from people that don't have as sophisticated of an understanding of the technology as like someone does if they're like a hacker or something. So I think sometimes that sort of blends into legitimate people having sponsorships and stuff like that. But obviously, if you're passionate about the space, if you're good at what you do, you want to ingrain as deeply as you can, and you have to have a job, right? You have to be making some kind of money just like everybody else does.
Yeah, exactly, man. So that's one of the things that, like, there are a lot of people that'll just completely discount it or say it. But, the funny thing is, like, two things. One, I think that a lot of the negative connotation does happen with it is associated from people that are, bad actors in the space, right? So that the actions of a few spread to the actions of everyone else as far as the perception in a lot of people's minds. But one of the things that I think that, is really funny, a lot of the people that are here, they find whatever platform. If they had an opportunity to be able to do it, it is something that I think is, like, you have opportunities that these type of partnerships can also present you, right? As far as being able to build something else with your brand down the road, partnering with people that are, have a good footing in the space is something that if you're ever trying to build anything, like, you want to be able to leverage those partnerships. So yeah, man, it's something that I'm proud of. And, again, I will definitely look for, selectively, but there are opportunities that I know, will continue to come from that down the road as well.
So this is a technical analysis, or you have a lot of experience with technical analysis. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to quiz you. No, I'm just kidding. In terms of
this is the gotcha question section of the podcast, Kaleo.
Oh, shit. Hey, just trust me, man. I've been gotcha'd all day on Twitter, so it's fine. Like, I'm used to it.
Okay, first question. Do I make a trade here? So do I go long and do I long this up to 1665? Yes or no? I'm just kidding.
This is financial advice.
It depends. Like, I just shared a pretty bearish thread a little bit ago. So I mean, like,
I just looked at some of your
Kaleo, or you whatever.
So I looked at some of your fractals that you had here, which just showed absolute things capitulating to an extreme degree.
Dude,
so
ETH BTC still looks really strong though, man. Like, ETH BTC, while BTC has been dumping, ETH relative to BTC has been really strong. So, you can look at it. It's primarily retraced fully that loss that it had from, 24 hours ago. So it's back to 0.08. And dude, I still think there's a strong chance that we see ETH BTC back to 0.1, 0.11, that range. So, if you're going to long anything, I still think the move is ETH versus BTC. But again, it's just going to be an interesting narrative where I don't think now is the time to do it. I think that, a month or two ago was a great time to do it, leading up to the merge. But day of, dude, a lot of the time these events just lead to be sell the news type of events. So I'm just, if you're looking to make any trades, there are a lot of people that like to try to gamble on that type of event. But I just think that it's not the type of trade that I like to take.
All right. Second question. How many levels are the right number of levels to have on a chart? And is this the correct quantity?
Bro, where are you getting all these lines from? Zoom out and explain some of these.
I had someone in my Discord. The problem is I hop into the hourly, and this is where I end up sometimes drawing the lines. I don't know how to, in TradingView, set up a separate one for like weekly, like how I set up a separate weekly chart, but I don't want to lose these lines.
I'll give you one hint for a couple things that you can do, right?
Okay.
One, there are multiple ETH USD charts that exist. So you could use different ETH USD charts like from different exchanges. And you can have like different setups on each one of those exchanges. Two, you can also color code them if you really want them all on one chart, right? Like if you say, okay, well, this is a weekly resistance, this is a monthly, this is a daily, hourly, whatever, you can color code them, right? But yeah, see, there's a clean chart, clean plate for you to be able to play.
Oh, this is feeling so fresh. Okay, so that's the first one. Is there not a way for me to take this same item though and like have different versions of it? I don't know. So that like, because I want to save like my hourly chart, my daily chart, my weekly chart.
I mean, nah, like it's what you put on that specific chart for that exchange is going to stay there. If you really want to have a different one, the only way that I know of currently would be saving it with a different ETH USD exchange chart.
Okay.
Right?
Well, you just gave me one of those paths, so I'm going to just go with that one. Ooh, look at VIX. VIX was the nice one, the nice trade here for a bit. So we'll switch over to this. Okay, so we're back into a clean chart. I'm liking this approach. This is interesting. So you're saying, so how do you, when you usually approach this, what's sort of your like go-to, like, let's start at the top. Like, what are you looking? I know you mentioned Crypto Cred, and he likes starting most of his videos over at the weekly. What are you like? If you were to go and start looking for opportunity, well, let's step back for a moment. You said you just aren't. You may be drawing on charts, but you're not actually looking at opportunities right now. You're waiting for the market to change. You said that could be a year. Is that on your side, Pia?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You said it could be a year, could be two. We have no idea. But what are you looking for? Like, what are you waiting for before we even jump into like anything in the chart?
Dude, first and foremost, like I'm a degen at heart, so there probably will be a play one day that I see that I'm like, man, I have to do that, and I just forget everything, set aside my discipline and ape in. But at the moment, thankfully, I'm just not there. I really realistically think that, one that I don't know, I guess I can maybe share this with you, that I look at historically and like it looks like pure shit right now.
I think your screen is shared. Pia, you can swap over to his screen, I think.
Here, well, let me share it real quick. I am not sharing it at the moment, so we'll go window.
People are hating on the fact that I'm not using dark mode. Yo.
Okay, so I am sharing it now. Okay, so
the halving cycles. Here we go. Now we're talking.
I've always been a big fan of the halving cycle narrative, and that's why it's really difficult for me, and like why I hope I look like an ass and that this ends up playing itself out. Like this line right here, there are a lot of people that'll sit there and like it's similar line to whatever you see on the rainbow charts. There are people that use those rainbow charts and whatever they have, like same type of thing, right?
The rainbow charts meaning
hey, Pio, I think you meant to mute yourself.
Very funny. The rainbow charts meaning the stock to flow model, correct, Kaleo?
Different models. Like if you go to like Eric Wall, for instance, he's a big proponent of it. He'll share it. But, where this base log curve actually derives itself from, it was an obsession of mine for a while to be able to trace back and be like, okay, what is actually driving the support curve? Because it can't just exist out of nowhere. So I've got an Excel sheet, which I'm not even going to try to dive in. Who knows what I'll accidentally pull up if I pull that up. But, like the Excel sheet that I worked on, has the total supply curve of BTC matching that curve nearly perfectly, right? So, it does show the logarithmic decay of that curve as it continues forward. And, so like it's just historically been a level that's held. And, if you understand the supply demand economics of the halvening and really what drives a lot of the supply that's flooded onto the market for BTC from the miners, like it makes sense as far as, each halvening cycle, you're getting half the supply that's being dumped on you because, these miners are having to pay for, so, as long as demand at least is relatively similar, and hopefully growing, this curve, ends up supporting itself.
So well, where are we on that curve right now? Like if you zoom in, where
we are right here, but that has fully retraced itself. So if you look at it, we're at like 20,200. It's like right there. So point being, a move down to like 12K would completely invalidate this curve and would lead toward a new narrative, which is something that's difficult for me to really, because it's something I have been married to for so long. I mean, like since 2017, man, that I've been paying attention to this. But, all good things eventually come to an end. So if it does, it's not something that you should sit there and be like, okay, well, does this mean Bitcoin's dead? No, I don't think it does. Hopefully it holds. And hopefully, the thread that I just shared that has that fractal with BTC going down to there, hopefully that's wrong. But, anyway, like this is one thing that I've always paid attention to and why I have thought that this range is a decent area to be able to stack in. The other thing outside of just that support curve, you can look at the time range. So time from the halvening to the base of the cycle, right? Right there, it was 778 days on after that happening. This one, it was 872 days, from the 2016 halving to, the bottom in 2018. So right now, the bottom that we've seen so far, that was 788 days into it. So we have not formed a new bottom since then, but it's right in that range that we have historically seen the bottom fall. And, I'm not sure, where are we as far as the days right now? Because I haven't drugged this out for a while. Say that we make a new bottom. It's still 866. So if we get a new bottom sometime in the next few days, it's still in that window. So I still think time-wise, regardless of the price level, I still think time-wise that we're getting closer to the bottom. Like if it's not in, I still expect it to be in the next couple months. And, you just accumulate in that green range each time, right? So that's where I think that we are. And that's kind of been my strategy, isn't necessarily trading this because I don't want to chop myself to shreds in whatever base range we're forming. I would rather stack because I think that is the higher IQ play and just stack patiently. And as you can see, we've had time historically to be able to stack in that range. So that's a game plan, right? Like that's why I'm not actively trading. I'm stacking high conviction plays, whether it be BTC or ETH. If it dips, that just means, better entry. So all the better. Like, does it hurt my clout, my pride? If it dips beneath where I thought it was going to, sure. But does it hurt, financially? No, I'm fine and I'm prepared for that.
So first of all, thank you for everything you just said, Kaleo. That was absolutely fantastic. And I agree with basically everything. So I have a question. So you talk about the bottom and this is the stock to flow model. Was it invalidated? Technically, yes, it was. However, look historically, you remember 2017, right? You remember all these times. Well, maybe not this early, but if you
sharing your own screen,
this is me sharing my own screen.
Oh God.
So Kaleo, every time we hit the bottom, right? And the colors, by the way, everybody, the rainbow colors here, those indicate how far we are from the next halving cycle. So if you take a look here, historically, the bottoms have always come in this blue territory, and specifically the darker blue. We aren't there yet. So Kaleo, I don't know. Does this mean anything? Am I out to lunch? Well, I think that we're going to hit bottom in the next few months, like you talked about, when you get to that point that we're that far out from the next halving cycle that we have that deeper blue.
Yeah, I mean, hey, could the deeper blue be it? Sure. I think it paints the exact same picture of kind of what I was talking about a bit ago, though, just visualized differently where, okay, we should be in kind of that sweet spot where you should be focused on just stacking those higher conviction plays. Whether it's BTC, ETH, SOL, whatever it is that you think is going to be around the next cycle and is going to do well, I think that should be your primary purpose right now. And this comes from an extremely active trader. I've been tidying up and finishing the rest of my, buttoning up to finally finish my 2021 taxes before the end of October. And it's been a lot of fun. But anyway, looking through all of that, seeing my activity for last year, it was absolutely insane. I've got, I think 1 point something million lines of trades that were made. And like,
What?
a lot of those trades were from large orders that, they split them out individually. So say that you buy like $1 million of BTC, it breaks it out, between all the different block orders that were, set in there to begin with. So you may get like a $5,000 fill, a $20 fill, a $50,000 fill, all of that bulked into one order. So anyway, like it's over 1 million lines worth of trades though from last year that are in there.
You're buying $1 million at a time with your trades?
I mean, last year, dude, I was doing some crazy, like actually, if I look here, the dumbest thing I did, I like ended up losing a decent amount here. I was in a 1,000 BTC long and I moved the price of Bitcoin a couple $100 like like on this wick. And then I ended up basically retracing it and selling it like for break even, except for minus the fees. And the fees were probably hundreds of thousands.
1,000 Bitcoin long. So you have $63 million that you're managing.
I was an absolute degenerate idiot, man. Like to just put it that way, it was absolutely stupid. I was playing with, let's see, dude, I was probably playing with like 8x leverage on, whatever position. It was absolutely just God tier stupid.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. But even at $63 million, that means at 8x position means that you were still exposed nearly $8 million that you had liquid that you were trading on that.
Dude, and then on top of that, I think I had some other alt longs also. So I think it was just 8x for just the BTC position.
Fuck?
So yeah, it was like, I mean,
how much money are you trying to make is the first question I have. Like, actually,
and that's the thing that resets you, like, and the shittiest part about all this, again, looking back at it, when I was trading here, right? Like, no, that wasn't November. Shoot, I was talking about April of 21, right? So April 21, not there. So it was here, it was like 60 whatever to there. Anyway, so there was when I was entering into that stupid trade. And then like, right here, I was still knocking windows or knocking on doors to sell windows and try to pay rent.
And so what would be your approach at that point? You were just collecting and accumulating?
Dude, I just had some really fortunate multiples, whether it be on options or, degenerate option plays or some other, like hitting Doge early and some other stuff. And, multiples multiply, right? In the trending market. And that was kind of what helped set me up for the rest of the year.
So, I mean, I did one options trade and I made 40,000 with $400, but it wasn't at a point where I'm now like doubling up and to a point where I had millions that I was managing for this. Okay. So, man, I have so many questions about this that are, like, the first thing is you're selling windows door to door and you have some huge wins with, where are you trading options for these sorts of things? Like, how do you trade options on crypto?
Well, no, I mean, I was trading options in the stock market as well. Like, I don't talk about stock stuff as often these days, but, like if you followed me for the past couple of years, I've shared a lot of options plays as well. I mean, heck, actually last year at the end of, here through there, I had a really, really hot option streak.
Tesla, right? A lot of Tesla?
Yeah, a lot of Tesla, other EV plays. And then, I like go and retrace a good chunk of that with some QQQ and AMC calls. So I, like that was fun. I think that I made about like 3 point something million there with Tesla and some other calls, and then ended up retracing. Let's see. Out of those games, I think I lost about 2.8 million of them.
So, I mean, still you end up net an incredible gain. How much did you put in to end up making $3 million?
Okay, so my game plan there, and again, this is just completely degenerate, but like what's typically paid off for me in the past, my biggest wins that I've ever had have been these super high conviction, insane plays, right? So like Tesla, if I go to Tesla was an insane play where I was sitting there looking at it. If you're sitting right here going into October, right? Like I saw this flag type formation happening. And, I looked at all these other breakouts from the different flags. I'm going to go one day, get a little bit more granularity, right? So like each one of these had these massive upside events where, within a week, I looked at the date and price range and I was like, okay, each breakout that they've had, it's been like, 35 bars. So like a month and 100% gain. And you could go back and do that with a bunch of these. So you're like month. So this breakout was, 10 bars, 80% gain. So I was looking at each one of these massive impulse moves and I was like, okay, this is going to happen. So the way that I positioned myself, I think that I was putting about like 20 to 25K a week into just month out calls where, I was like month out about whatever percent above the money, out of the money calls. And I was just letting them expire. So I was just rolling a bunch of these different calls rather than.
Hold on. So you're at this point, had you already accumulated a bunch of capital to be able to place weekly 25K bets?
Yeah. So, I mean, I like, the BTC, whatever move that I talked about and all the other degen shit from April, I ended up losing a good chunk of that money, but I had enough capital set aside to where still able to be degen with it. So anyway, so there was like 25K a week that I would just dump in, and was it absolutely insane? Yes, because I started at the beginning of August. So if you look, actually end of July. So from like here through there, every single week losing about. Actually I didn't start losing until about a month out, but losing about 20 to 25K, right? And you're just sitting there and you feel kind of crazy. So by the time that finally happened, I think that I had lost about, 250K on this play, right? It'd been about 2.5 months, 10 weeks. It was a good amount, but that's how much I had into it. And then when that breakout finally did manifest and I had those, calls that were still sitting there because I was always 1 month out. Right. I bought X amount of calls 1 month out each time, each week. And when it finally hit, those blew up and, it was like a multi-million-dollar trade. But, I had to sit there and have conviction for months where it was, okay, like I'm losing money. Everybody's calling me insane. Everybody's saying this is going to break down, but I believe it's going to break up. So I'm just going to keep dumping money into it until like it finally resolves itself. And was I hedged? No. But that's an example.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're basically YOLOing naked calls straight up week after week. And because it's a month out, at any given moment, you're at least exposed to 3 to 4 contracts that you have. And you get a decent amount of upside because shorter term options get the most volatility and get the most gains. Weekly options you can get some huge gains. I did some trades with that. But most of the time you're losing. But okay, so this sets the stage for some of your crypto trades.
Hey, just quickly though. So like Von Go on there, I'm reading the comment, risk management 100. Yeah. Was there risk management in anything with that strategy? No, from that sense. But, from the sense that could I have dumped my entire capital in at the very beginning and, played it differently? Yes. So like, I looked at what I was willing to lose each week, right? And I capped it at that. So rather than, aping in 100% at the beginning, I spread out what I was investing, from that weekly portion and played it from, so, a little bit of a twisted risk management for like, there was still risk management involved from like that perspective with it, right?
So,
but
yeah, so this is, okay, so you go from what was the greatest risk you took before you were doing this trading? And I don't want to get into your physical composition, but I just want to say, I mean, it's got to be like the ball's got to be pretty large at this point in time when you're just slinging millions of dollars, because you said you were basically knocking on doors, door-to-door sales, essentially. So I'm trying to figure out like what that transition was like. And when you're watching that volatility of you losing $25,000 a week, or had you just already been the type of gambler that went to the casino and just kept throwing the whole paycheck at the table?
No. The closest I ever got to it was like old school RuneScape back in the day. So I used to play old school RuneScape whenever I was, late middle school through high school, whatever. And I would go to the duel arena. Like I'd do two things, duel arena and like PKing, which was called player killing. You go to the wild, you fight people, you risk whatever you have on you, and you're trying to get whatever they have on them. So like the duel arena, though, was the ultimate degen where you are just, whoever wins the match wins it all, whatever's put up. And I had a run where, in the duel arena, I went from like 100K to hundreds of millions of GP and, just felt great.
The RuneScape currency.
Yeah, the RuneScape currency, right? And like got all these rare items, etc. And then one day I went full tilt when, there was a guy that had a faster internet connection than me. And I knew that's what he was doing. He had a way faster ping. So he was always able to get the first hit. So like statistically, he was winning basically every single time, even though he had worse stats. And I just didn't care. I went full tilt, like lost it all. And, like that was when I realized, okay, like there's a bit of a gambling issue built in here, right?
That's me when at the last trade at every poker table that I'm at, where I'm just like, I'm tired with this game, all in. Like there's some point that's gonna happen. So did you just lose it all on one? Like how did you lose all that money? Or virtual money?
It was like one person. I mean, like I said, I was like, my stats are better. I trusted my stats. I was like, I know how good I am at this and that. But they had some glitch where either they had a faster ping or something. But point being, they had like a glitch in the system where they keep beating me. But I was so prideful that I was like, I'm going to keep going back and, martingale my way out of this. And I martingaled my way straight back to zero. So, and, like I said, that's where I've been. I mean, heck, several times in trading too, where I recognize that same type of pattern, like that April run that I had where, my volume was 4 billion plus. Dude, I had a run up from, like that was my big run, right? Was April of 21 where, I ran up from like 100K to 12 mil and,
Jesus.
within I think 2 or 3 weeks.
What?
Yeah, 100K to 12 mil in like I think it was 2 weeks.
Wait, so what?
Your life changed?
I think that's probably when I.
Okay, no. Let me finish the story because it gets like it sounds great, right? It sounds sexy. It gets worse. So that happened, and dude, I was sitting there sharing like $1 to $2 million P&Ls every single day. Like I thought I was God tier. Every single thing that I touched would just play out exactly how I planned it.
I think that's when I followed you around that time, was probably just like, this guy doesn't miss.
Absolute God tier, man. And like you start to believe it. And you start to believe that there's nothing wrong that you can do. So like the aspiration that started at 1 million, all of a sudden that went to 10 million. And when you hit it, you're like, well, hell, at this point, 100 mil is only a 10X away. You start to have that mentality. And I retraced that from 12 mil down to 1 mil within another month.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like,
what was that like? Like, so you're down to 1 million. Did you go on a break? Like, what happened at that moment in time?
Oh man, yeah. That was a little bit like, I went a little bit of a break, but it was just kind of went patient throughout the summer because we went to where we were just lower or whatever. So, from there, stacked a lot of Luna during the summer, was able to ride that up some. And, thankfully that ended up playing out okay. And thankfully I wasn't a lunatic to where I was married to Luna and that I put my life savings and kept it in there. But yeah, man, I mean, I've had several runs like that where, it's just a run up and, you retrace a decent amount of it because the same risk that you utilize to be able to get that type of, quick gain, if you don't adjust your risk levels as you are adjusting those gains, you're setting yourself up for failure eventually with that, right? So like that's my whole thing right now. I know my mentality, where I am, I know what I have set aside and I'm comfortable with it. I'm confident and okay, I can survive a bear market. And I don't want to push. Like, I just don't think the market conditions are right to put the foot on the pedal with the gas, right? Like, it's better to just sit back and to be able to, be patient with whatever's going on and, like survive.
So I charge a very small fee, in case you're wondering, for a sort of consulting service. And what I do is I give you my number, you give me a call, and I'm going to say, take them gains. Okay. And, and you end up taking a piece of those gains. It seems like you've learned that lesson. But that's exactly what I've definitely been there.
I was going to say the worst thing too, and I never said this back whenever I was on my FTX days, I could only withdraw 9K at a time. So when you're not able to withdraw any of that, like, all the money's still on the table. And again, I was treating it at that point of time, whenever you have that level of success, like this is important for anyone to listen to, because like thinking going into the next bull market, you need to know this, right? You are going to go on hot streaks in crypto, right? Like it's going to happen. And, you've got to be able to take some off the table, because eventually the market will humble you. And that was my whole thing right there, where I wasn't able to take it off the table. I got overconfident in whatever I was doing, and, the market ended up humbling me. And, it takes enough of those, that happening a few times before you finally realize, okay, oh shit, like I actually do need to take this, but it's important.
You're right. Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you about the last time that I ran my account up to $12 million. I'm just kidding. I got to 2, but I take way less risk than you do. And I think oftentimes, the big distinction is that you continued forward. Where that could have gone wrong is if the market eventually capitulated earlier in the cycle, then like time and luck plays a major role when you're taking that large of shots. Real quick question, last thing on this, and then it looked like Pio had some questions. Andy had some charts pulled up there. What with that from 100,000 to 12 million, was that a leveraged, or was that options, or what exactly was that trade?
All leverage, basically just rolling one winner into another, and nailing them all perfectly. Mm-hmm. That was, yeah. Heck, I still think about that sometimes. And, here's one thing that I fully believe, right? Dude, my faith is really important to me, right? And I think that I was getting in a position where, one of the things I'm the most grateful about for the whole window knocking era was that it really took me back to my roots of, okay, I had trusted in myself for so long that I realized okay, it took me to hit rock bottom to realize, okay, I'm in a situation where I need God to get out of this, right? I need to lean on him, trust him. He's got a plan. And whenever you start to have those type of gains, no matter how much that you think that you are going to do good with the gains that you get, right? You can reach certain levels. I realized that the money and the gains and the fame started to take the place that God should have in my life. And, I as terrible as it sounds, it just it humbled me, and I was okay with that. Favorite passage of mine, James 4:13 through 17 says, "Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. As it is, you boast and brag. All such boasting is evil. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that." So dude, that's the thing that carries me through the market, right? It's understanding at the end of the day, whether I, profit or not, it doesn't change the trajectory of what I'm living for and where I'm going.
Well, you can replace at any given moment in your life whatever that higher power is for yourself, and I feel like that's something that ends up. We oftentimes do it with something which is probably not in our best interest. Ego and other things can get in the way, so it's interesting to hear you do that. So and it's incredible that you were able to navigate a challenging experience, because 99% of people plus can't say that they've had that experience. So I surely haven't. So props on sticking with it. And what sounds like to have the, still today to have sort of the foresight and wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm going to just pause on this thing for a period of time. And that, yeah, that's something that requires a level of maturity, which I think is sort of, you learn over time. But anyways, I mean, congratulations on that. So right now, last thing Pia, did you have a question? Because I think I also saw that you had that chart pulled up. I am interested in this fractal and you're walking through it, but what were you going to say?
The chart I had pulled up, aka the stock to flow chart, the only chart that's important.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking. I was talking about Kaleo's charts.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
I'm not interested in the rainbow.
Nick, man, I love watching you work, man. Keep doing your thing.
So what were the two things. So right now, these are the charts that you've drawn out. I see a couple of these that you've done, and these were just shared on Twitter. Maybe you can like this thesis that you have right now, and a few things that I'm wondering. Well, I guess this chart actually is a really good one. It kind of proves your thesis here. So do you see this dumping all the way down to the bottom of that wedge line that you have drawn?
I pray that it doesn't, man. Like it'll be painful. Like I really hope I'm wrong and I'm just seeing shit. But yeah, it looks weak. It looks really weak looking at that trend, looking at this, it's done the exact same thing. Each of these like impulse legs up where, you've seen this fake out, retrace back, and just a violent dump back that's led to the range lows. So, like if this goes back down, if SPY goes back or SPX goes back down to, this 3,300 range, which would be where, I think this bottoms out.
This is SPY. Yeah, I'm actually in agreement with you.
SPY.
I'm in agreement.
If it goes down to there, dude, I don't see any way that BTC holds that 20K support. And like, I want to, I like inherently, I think if you're involved in the crypto space, your native bias should be bullish, right? Like, why else are you here in the longer run? So like, I think that it'll come back, but dude, if it, I don't know if it'll go this low. I'm hoping and praying it doesn't, but like, the main thing here is just showing, okay, here's a similar structure, blah, 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 fake out here. If that 18K level goes, dude, there's going to be a liquidation cascade. Who knows how low it'll go? Will it end at the 13, 14 level where we, have decent support? Will it go lower? I don't know. But like one thing I'm confident of is it'll eventually bounce back. So just stack.
Yeah.
I love that quote. This guy doesn't take field goals. Also, apparently it's popular right now to go for it on fourth down is the new equivalent of, I guess, Steph Curry's 3-point revolution in the NBA.
The stats are in your favor, baby. You got to go for it on the fourth. That's what you should have been doing, man.
So that's the new format, and that's, I guess, Kaleo's been doing that since birth. So there was one.
That, man.
Well, I guess actually you just summarized it. What were you going to say, Pia?
No, I was just commenting on the fourth down thing.
I mean, dude, this going down that deep is something. I mean, frankly, we've been saying. I think that S&P was set up for another 25 to 30% reduction, primarily because if you look at the PE ratio historicals, we're still off based on that. Whether or not you believe that number, because for the past 10 years we've consistently been above that level. But if you follow, the sort of Warren Buffett theory of value and some of these other things, well, we should drop another, 30% or something like that in the S&P 500. So
don't break my heart, Nick. Don't break my heart. I don't want to hear it.
Your technicals are lining up, and I think there are a lot of negative signs. That said, what I look for in that sort of environment, I don't view that as breaking anyone's heart. Instead, I'm more bullish on that. If anything, I look at my own portfolio construction right now and I say, am I too overexposed to NFTs at this moment in time? Because I have hundreds of thousands of dollars still sitting in NFTs, and that's where I say, you know what? Like, do I actually think this macro level? And I wonder from your standpoint, like outside of, I don't know what your level of exposure is on the Pudgy Penguins here, for example. But although you are one of the strongest advocates of the Pudgy ecosystem, where were you during the bear time, huh? That's the real question I got for you.
Hey, first off, I bought in to the Pudgies back over here is when I started to buy in, right? Like,
okay.
So, that kind of is the bear still, right? Like,
This chart is hilarious. I'm sorry to cut you off. Just like hilarious that we went from Bitcoin to ETH to Tesla to just top left, pudgy penguins. All right, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, what I've always said when it comes to NFTs is waiting until I get a better understanding of where I can extract some type of alpha from. I've never been good at leading about like what mint is going to be the next hot mint, right? But charts speak to me. And whenever I saw this chart back there, I was like, okay, if it does, climb to there, looks like a massive flag that's been accumulating since August of 21. And if this weren't pudgy and this said Bitcoin or something else, I don't see how people wouldn't be bullish on it. So it's obviously, this chart right here is native in ETH. And you can look through a lot of different NFT charts that are, different, like they've got different trends, different whatever. So that was one of the things that made me really bullish on the pudgies was this type of a setup. And, we'll see whether or not it works out. I mean, TBD, it's done decently so far, but, I think that I don't know. Unfortunately, there really aren't that many pairs that you can really find right now on TradingView easily.
This Bored Ape Yacht Club.
The Bored Ape Yacht Club one is, I don't know. I think I actually looked at it. I lost some ape followers after I shared this chart.
What's your target?
I mean, 30 ETH or, worst case scenario, 15.
Ouch. Oh my God, stop it.
So I don't know, Nick. I don't know.
Kaleo, let's do it.
I
don't know. 30, 15, somewhere in there.
Do they have CryptoPunks on here? Because I actually been saying this all along. A lot of people were like, Nick had the best CryptoPunk trade ever. And I'm like, I think I'm going to be down 50% before all is said and done. Yeah, I mean, so will you buy into punks at that level or sorry, into apes at that level, or do you not even give a shit?
Bro, if apes hit like this, which I really don't think they'll hit there. I don't know. I bet just gut feeling if they bottom out, it'd be around here. We'll see. Really interesting. We haven't had a full NFT cycle yet. But yeah, man, if somehow it went down to there, there's no way I'm not buying apes.
I wanted to stop you there real quick. And you just said something, which is how I've been feeling for a large portion of this. We have not seen a full NFT cycle. And I just want to confirm what your sort of thesis is on that. Do you think we got another 50% down here to go on NFTs on the blue chips? What's the bottom of a cycle for you?
Dude, that's a great question. I mean, okay, so why I pulled up apes there is because apes really do, when you're talking about apes, they're like the Bitcoin or ETH of the market here, right? I kind of have a feeling what apes do, a lot of the other stuff are going to follow. So if apes do crash, I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see whether it leads toward that liquidity going elsewhere in NFTs, which would support something like, the pudgy bullish case, or whether it just bleeds, liquidity across the entire ecosystem. I'm not sure, man. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, that's why I've really kept what I've gotten involved in a little bit more concentrated, and I haven't aped in too heavy. Dude, I don't know. I only have 9 pudgies and 50 something littles, nothing insane, but it's fun. It's something different. But I don't know, man. It's tough to see. It's tough to say what exactly is going to happen. If this capitulation does happen though, I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Well, the biggest thing, and it feels inevitable to me personally, primarily because of the turnover of apes is incredibly slow, as well as punks as well. You see volume of something like 3 sold in a day. And to me, that's just warning flag out the wazoo of if suddenly a lot of people start seeing the price go down and panic, there's no there's no strength in these floors at that point in time, outside, because it's all of us collectively saying, yeah, we're going to hold on to this thing at any level. And we spoke with someone the other day. I'm not going to name names, but we went out to dinner with somebody who was talking about how they sold multiple apes in recent weeks. And I think that because they had seen a lot of their, so pre other deeds, a lot of apes had a lot of money, myself included, where I think my portfolio was up to like nearing $3 million with some of the ape coin, ape mutants, and everything else. And I actually fortunately sold one of the mutants near the top there, sold a coda. Like a lot of the trades worked out, but the bottom line is there's just not like as much as there's liquidity per se. It's very limited as to it's.
What would it take for you to sell? What would it take for Nick to be able to say, you know what, I'm at a point where I'm going to sell my ape?
Well, the distinction for me right now is because I have a punk and an ape, I feel like I have the holy grail. What I've been doing instead is selling other assets. So I sold, for example, I sold I sold a mutant ape. Well, I still have one, so I have the whole collection, and I added another deed. I've made so much in this space over the past year, just personally for me as an individual. It's not, I never hit 12 million or anything like that, but I put in 30K total into this ecosystem and have pulled out close to $1 million, plus still have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the NFT portfolio still. So people were like, Nick sold his doodle at the bottom, and I'm like, well, yeah, I bought a punk for 90K. I'm gonna go take 20K off the table, basically, and like let me offset, because I said I wouldn't go back to the casino, and I went back to the casino to buy this. So that's kind of been my main thing. I don't know. It's difficult for me holding on to that ape and now holding on to the punk. To me, is a symbol of my commitment to this ecosystem, but it's a major commitment. Like on a relative
from a financial perspective,
it's unreasonable, basically. Like I should go. It would be smarter of me to go, like, or more conservative to go buy some real estate, turn it into rentals, put that in an LLC, and like, you know, try and develop something that's more conservative. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. My original target was $500,000 for them, and we hit 460,
460,
something like that floor. I should have realized that was close enough.
Nick, no. I get the exact same way, man. I'm such a perfectionist. I'm like, okay, you know, my target here, 28K. If it's 27,920, like, nope, I'm on God mode. It's gonna be perfect. I don't care. Like, it's gonna get there.
Nick's like, bring on 500. Let's go.
And Nick, first, like, don't discount what you did, because that's incredibly impressive too. Like, just first things first.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's a miracle also, right? Like there's luck and a lot of other things that went into it. There was conviction that came with that, but there's no rational way at the beginning of last year to say, here's what my portfolio is going to be worth. No one could have predicted that. And I think the levels to which apes got were a level far beyond what anyone anticipated. So the fact that the floor was even near $500,000 for any period of time, like, is absolutely ludicrous. But I do appreciate that. I mean, it's still what you were saying in terms of feeling like God. There were multiple moments over the past year where that definitely came in, where you have the degree of euphoria was quite extreme, and my then fiance was sitting at the beach, and I was sitting by myself back at the house and watching the NFT market pump, and I was just flipping for thousands like every minute, and I'm like, I'm a genius. Like
that was me, April 21. I remember I literally tweeted this shit at 7 a.m. where I woke up and I looked over, like I was up, a couple $1 million that day, and I just looked, I was like, literally flipping millions of dollars in bed from an iPhone. And that tweet blew up and got thousands of likes. And I just felt like I was such a gangster, man. Like, you go from whatever to what. Yeah, I was. Like, am I? No. I'll be the first to admit. But yeah, it's easy to get those feelings of euphoria when the market's doing that type of stuff. It's tough to know, though, when to really fully say, okay, what am I willing to eat as an L? Because,
and when am I going to take my gains? I mean, it seems like after listening to this conversation, is that really like it's your level of maturity and tolerance for different things. It's constantly recalibrating as you go through each subsequent market cycle. You went through one, and one of your market cycles that was included was playing that game. I'm blanking on the name of the game. RuneScape. And was playing RuneScape was one of your market cycles. That was one of your times around. And you got to go through that sometimes where you really take it on the chin. And you came full circle from that. And so I think, and it sounds like, you repeated some of that again with just the sheer leverage that you were trading at. But I mean, in the end, we can look back on it and you can say, well, I did pretty well.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like if you're listening to this and you're going to be plugged into this game, obviously, there are different levels of, hey, I love your dog in the background, Pio. Mine's right next to my feet.
Yeah, I gotta check on her.
But no, like there are different levels of degeneracy that you can take, but you're gonna see extremely volatile swings, and there are gonna be periods, and I mean long periods of times, where you just feel like shit. What the heck did I do? Like, say, Nick, if somehow your ape does go down, say that like this happens, where I've always tweeted out, your favorite coin will lose 80 to 90%, and then another 80 to 90% in the bear market. It can happen, blah, blah, blah. Say apes do that, and they hit 20K, like that's going to hurt whenever you sit there and you look at that. Right. But like, kind of, you'll know where it's going longer term. So it's not going to scare you away from it. Right. But like still in the moment, it doesn't feel good at that point in time.
You're hitting my target though. This is what I've been saying is the price. And I said, I would just hold this ape. Like I know, like I actually think it's going down to 30K. It has been my expectation, but I'm totally down for that. What's going to suck is living through that for an extended period of time where I'm sitting there and the price just is not returning back to this level. And where you're talking about, dude, a 2-year bear when you've just been holding on to it. But I look back and all the people I was interviewing at the beginning of last year were basically a bunch of people that just kept accumulating ETH through the bear. That was all that they did. They kept accumulating. They kept buying. Some of them had bought punks, and they looked like geniuses in a bull market. But we got to end up like waiting for that to come back. And the real question is, during that bear, it has to force you to question everything.
Yeah. No, it definitely does.
How exposed are you willing to be during the bear market?
I mean, like in NFTs, honestly, I've close to hit my capacity for what I'm really willing to put into them. I've done enough to where I've like just having a little bit of skin in the game, has done enough for me where I have learned so much more about the way that these things work and the move and, the trading, et cetera, than I ever would have known had I not done anything at all. And that was a big objective of mine this bear market, is to understand NFTs better, because I think going into the next bull market, they will be the leader again, but on a way bigger scale than what we saw previously. I mean, way bigger scale the next couple of years. So, I think waiting for that to get any type of experience would be foolish. So yeah, man, I mean, I'm not trying to do anything insane right now, but it's, like dipping my toes in certain areas, stacking more BTC and ETH, if it goes much deeper, I'll probably deploy the rest of the capital I have left. If it, really does tank down into the low teens, then we'll see. So, but until then, man, I'm just, my game plan is slowly deploying capital over the next year. And, we'll hopefully all of it pays off in the next few years whenever the bull run does come back, because I believe there will be another bull run. I don't think that it's all said and done. Crypto will be the highest growth sector out of any market over the next couple of decades.
Well, I really appreciate you taking this time. That we could keep talking for a long time, and yeah, I definitely enjoy that. We should have you come back on in a couple of months, and we can re-explore some of the technical stuff that you're doing with NFTs, as well as sort of how you're feeling in the market at this point in time. But you shared a lot of, I think, personal stories about your journey during this, which is so insightful and humbling and helpful and inspiring all at once. So I think that that's something that is incredibly valuable. So thanks for that.
Yeah, man, really enjoyed the time. Appreciate having y'all on, or appreciate y'all having me on. It's been a good one.
Cy Viper said best one in a while.
Love it.
Yeah, love it. But also, F you, Cy Viper. We're doing good stuff all the time. Just playing. He shout out to everyone watching. And Kaleo, I echo everything Nick said. This was fantastic. An hour and 20 flew by. We could have gone for another hour. I literally am late to dinner plans. Thanks so much for coming.
Shoot, my bad, y'all.
No.
Your boys having dinner at 5:30.
Seriously, thanks for coming. We got to do it again. This was awesome.
All right, y'all take it easy.
Yep, see you, man.